I walk up to her door and I was like, hey, Lynette, I'm new here. I'm trying to understand what kind of a size business case makes sense here. Are we talking about 500,000, 5 million, 50 million? Like, when are your eyes lighting up? Can you tell me a little bit more about how this business works? And she was very, very impressed that someone even talked to her about this.
You also talked about something which is actually making a lot of sense to me now that I'm a founder, now that I'm not actually a designer, is that we have to make profit, right, at the end of the day.
You have to be able to think about the 4 main strategies for how business actually makes money.
I heard a lot of terms. I think I need to Google just now. I do that right after this call.
The more important thing for me is, what is the impact we're having out there in the world with our products? What are we creating? What problems are we solving?
So this is Orbit by Osiflow.
Hi, I'm Shreshth from Osiflow, and this is Orbit. These are unfit or fireside chat conversations that we have with people all around the world, especially world-class product designers and world-class product leaders. So if you feel like you want to join us live for such sessions, then go down below in the description and you'll find that link. You can register for more such events if you'd like. We have a couple of them planned, by the way, for this month. Other than that, don't forget to grab that free FigJam file that we all jammed on in this session. And we've also included a couple of templates for you as a takeaway for this as a bonus. So yeah, I hope you get value from this. If you do, then like that FigJam community file, like this video, comment on it, and subscribe to our channel. I hope you enjoyed this.
Hi everyone, welcome to the webinars. I am very excited to host Simonetta today. Hi Simonetta.
Hi Shreshth, nice to see you again.
Yes, same here. So let me give you guys a quick introduction about what this session is going to be about, and then we can jump into it. My introduction, Simonetta's introduction. So Osiflow is a creative agency. We are into B2B products and brands. We work across different fields, and we are very excited to host our first ever community session webinar. This is the first time that we're using Riverside, so we're also testing out the platform live. Please do give us feedback. Let's see how it all goes. And I just quickly give you guys a quick introduction about Osiflow and our launch video, and yeah, then we'll get into Orbit.
Move on the map, never sleep. What you gonna do when you out? When you ready, you ain't really about that. Don't dig, don't you? Really on the move on the map, never slip. Put your hands to your lips, don't dig, don't you? Ready, you ain't really about that. Don't dig, don't you? Really on the move on the map, never slip. Put your hands to your lips. Shh. Move on the map, never sleep. What you gonna do when you out? When you ready, you ain't really about that. Don't dig, don't you? Really on the move on the map, never slip. Put your hands to your lips, don't dig, don't you? Ready, you ain't really about that. Don't dig, don't you? Really on the move on the map, never slip. Put your hands to your lips. Shh.
All right, so that was a quick introduction about the company, about what we do. Hope you guys get to see more of our work. If you have any questions, do reach out to us. But coming back to what we are all here for today, please meet Simonetta. She is joining us here from Germany, and we're sitting halfway across the world and connected through internet. Something really amazing that is invented. So, Bit by Osiflow was brainstormed as a concept, and we sort of came to a conclusion that a lot of times there are different threads that sort of open up when you're doing different sessions. We somehow came to the concept that everything revolves around one thing, and that's how we came up with Orbit, because you're orbiting around one transformative topic, and you need to have some sort of takeaways, and you can just roll out and just shoot out there and do whatever you feel like. On to introductions. I could introduce Simonetta. She has a lot of experience, but I think it'll be best if she goes and give her intro herself. So, Simonetta, how would you like to introduce yourself to the audience?
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Simonetta. As Shreshth already mentioned, I live in Cologne in Germany right now. I'm 47 years old. I grew up in Germany. I studied business here. I started my career actually in finance as an accountant, as a director of finance, as a controller. And then I moved to the United States a while ago, lived there for 17 years and went from finance to sales to product and never looked back. I've had 15 years of experience building digital products with designers, with engineers, with cross-functional teams, building hands-on software, first myself as an individual contributor, product manager, and then starting to lead product teams and then starting to lead leaders of product teams. I've kind of looked at this game from all kinds of angles, built marketplace software where you can trade domain names. I've built a platform for CFOs to run global financials, payroll, compliance, and stuff like that. I've also built browser plugins that let you filter out ads and scaled that through distribution partnerships with browser people around the world. I've always worked very internationally. I'm super thrilled to be back in a very Indian crowd. I loved working with my teams in Pune and Mumbai when that was what I was doing. And so I'm excited to be here and share some thinking on where my career started, the business kind of things, how this applies to how we're building digital experiences and why this matters to people in design, engineering, or product, because I think we create these things together as cross-functional teams. And at the end of the day, we want to solve a cool customer problem, but also do it in a way that makes sense to the business. And that's what I've been talking about a lot in the last year. So that's a little bit about me. I like to dance. I like good food. I like to travel. So you get a little bit of a glimpse of who I am.
Definitely. Thank you so much for joining us today. Simonetta, for those of you who don't know, has a very busy calendar, and I'm so glad that she took out the time to join us today. Thank you so much, Simonetta, for joining us. All right, so I'll give a quick introduction about me. I've been a product designer all my professional life. I was into industrial design. I have designed furniture, toys, automotive, and I finally made a switch to UX. I have worked on drones. That was, I think, one of the most experience that I've had so far in the design industry, designing drone enterprise software. So global products is always something that has always been in my head, and I really like, designing stuff. Until recently, when I decided to switch roles from a designer to a founder, and now I founded this agency of ours, and it's called Osiflow, based out of New Delhi. And yeah, it's been an interesting journey so far. Looking forward to building this agency further and making meaningful connections and growing the company. Yeah. Coming back to the topic of business and products, I think I'd like to get started by trying to understand more about your personal life and your experiences. If you can tell us, how did business play a big part in your role in products? What was the journey like?
So for me, this goes back to product first principles, right? And also the work that Marty Cagan has been doing in surfacing the things that actually make a product successful, how the best companies in the world work when it comes to product development, right? And he thinks of a product trio as being the team that makes something successful happen, right? And in the product trio, you have the designer, you have the engineer, and you have the product person, and then teams build around this. Sometimes you have multiple engineers in the same team with the designer and with the product person. If it's very design heavy, you may have multiple designers in the team, depends on what it is, right? But the idea of this product trio is to be responsible for value to customer, usability to customer, feasibility in making it happen, and viability to the business. And viability to the business means it makes business sense, right? So a product has to cover all these 4 risk dimensions to be a successful digital product. And Marty's thinking is that in this product trio, the designer is responsible for usability, the engineer is responsible for feasibility, and the product role is accountable for value to user as well as value to business, aka viability to business. You can have teams where someone plays multiple of these roles in the same person, right? If someone came from a design background and shifted into the product role, and they can actually fulfill both roles, they can be responsible for value to customer, value to business, and usability, and still partner with an engineer for feasibility. But I think what's important to understand is if you want to build a successful business with a product, with a digital product experience, there has to be a business model behind what it is you're doing. If you're just giving an amazing thing that's super useful to customers away for free, you cannot actually make a business out of it. And I learned this a little bit the hard way early in my career. One of my first companies I was in that had nothing to do with product or digital experiences, it was a nonprofit. And they were really cash strapped. They wanted to do very cool things in the world, and they didn't have the funds to get them done. So having funding, having money to get something done, funds our teams, funds our entire investment into cool new tech solutions. So at a very minimum, we have to understand that the money we cost ourselves as teams has to be made back for the business, and you want to make more back than just what you cost yourself in terms of payroll. So for me, it's always been kind of clear coming from a finance background that at the end of the day, I'm part of a business. A business has to make a profit. So I have to understand as a product person, and that applies the same for designers, founders, engineers. You have to be able to think about the four main strategies for how business actually makes money. And that's either increase revenue, protect revenue, like focus on something like decreasing churn, for example, avoid cost or decrease cost. All of these are strategies how you can become profitable. And in what we're doing in building these digital experiences, there has to be one of these value stream extractions out of the work we put into the organization and what we build for customers as values. It all has to come together. I think this is why it's so hard to be in product, because you have to kind of juggle all these different things all at the same time. But that's also what made it fun for me.
Very interesting. Just sum up your answer. I was taking some notes. You said designer takes care of usability, then there's feasibility, there's viability, and then value to users, right? Those were the four main pillars, right?
Right.
Very interesting. And you also talked about something which is actually making a lot of sense to me now that I'm a founder, now that I'm not actually a designer, is that we have to make profit, right? At the end of the day, it's all about profit at the end of the day. And a lot of times when we are in those silos, in those roles, or just thinking about the product, a lot of times we forget about this P&L sort of thing. So I want to jump back to probably you can probably talk about a story maybe, or something that you learned from that particular story, that instance that has happened, about profit, loss, finances in product. What have your learning been? Maybe just one random story will help us, understand things better.
Yeah, I'll share a story that happened to me 2 jobs ago when I was building this platform that helped CFOs do payroll around the world and consolidate their financials and everything. And this was a 2,000 people organization. I was in their headquarters in Boston, Massachusetts. We had a big group of people in India, some of my favorite colleagues there. And the CFO was also based in that Boston office. And I was new in this organization, and I didn't know what their financial picture looked like, where they were even at in their funding story. If I had known this, maybe I had not joined, because they were just about getting ready to sell themselves, and one private equity firm was trying to sell to the next private equity firm. The CFO in this scenario had a lot of power because she was trying to squeeze as much profitability out of this organization as humanly possible, because that affected the evaluation of the entire company. So I came in brand new, had no idea about all of this background, but I met her in the coffee kitchen, and I was like, let me go speak to this woman and understand what matters here. So I walk up to her door and I was like, hey, Lynette, I'm new here. I'm trying to understand what kind of a size business case makes sense here? Are we talking about 500,000, 5 million, 50 million? Like, when are your eyes lighting up? Can you tell me a little bit more about how this business works? And she was very, very impressed that someone even talked to her about this. And she said, oh, I wish your boss had once even come talk to me about this. And I had instant credibility and trust with a very senior leader in the organization because I spoke her language and I could talk to her about the thing that she cares about. And that is like, how can this company turn a profit? And I think at the end of the day, when we want our projects funded, right? We have a very cool idea for a new product, or we have a very cool idea how we can meaningfully expand our solutions into a new market, or into, let's say there's a baseline subscription and we can come up with a premium model or something like this. And we need people to get it done. We need to get someone to say, it's okay that you get to hire an additional team to get this piece of work done, right? How do you get this funded is you go and you make a business case. You explain to the business how it is worthwhile for them to invest in this extra team to expand into the European market or the Indian market or the Chinese market or whatever it is that you're trying to do. And if you can speak language that these decision makers are thinking in, aka numbers, you get the stuff funded that you want to build in product, right? So that's maybe like a story of how me coming into this company and just asking good questions towards the CFO and the finance team built the credibility so that when I wanted funding to get something done in this organization, I had the trust of leadership that I kept profitability and the business in mind while also building cool new things for customers. And sometimes when it comes to like design, right, and how this applies to what the role of design in all of this is, I think it's good to keep in mind what is worthwhile building and what might be overkill. Sometimes 80-20 thinking is good enough, right? So getting 80% there when the purchase funnel works, when customers can get the value they need out of the product is good enough, and a small incremental increase or in making it more beautiful or making it even nicer in terms of design costs a lot of time and effort. Like getting these final 20% done for the extra return you get on the work is sometimes not worthwhile doing, especially if maybe there are more worthwhile ideas in your backlog stack that would add a lot more value in some other dimension. So to just be aware of the cost of our own time is really usually the most expensive thing that we can put into a digital product. And being able to think like this and figure out where we can add the most value, I think is a career accelerator at the end of the day, because leadership looks to this. The more senior you get in product or design or in any kind of leadership role, the more important it becomes that you can think about the numbers and make sense of them.
I see. Interesting. I've very recently read a lot of articles about how people have been saying UX is dead, and the main point of their argument comes down to product thinking and thinking of the products and thinking holistically. So that really resonates. Do you have any advice for people in product, in design, that they can use to speak that language of business, of finance? I'm not sure exactly finance, but yeah, any advice for people?
I mean, so I have a course, you can visit that, shameless plug, but it's actually not that difficult to understand this, right? There is lots of free content out there as well, even on my blog, that you can just read and understand to get a basic grasp of this. But my main piece of advice would really be go to speak to the people in your finance team, let them explain to you how the numbers work in your context, because that is actually very different if you are in a startup versus in a scale-up versus in an enterprise. Just in terms of the magnitude of numbers, it's also very different. Think an Amazon billions of dollars, right? A scale-up maybe like even a Lovable, right? Just reached, I think, 70 million annual recurring revenue, right? It's like scale-up size-ish. But a startup might be super happy if they reach even 1 million in revenue with their small team. So it depends on what kind of size organization you are in and where in the funding cycle you are, whether the company looks more at revenue growth and everything that has to do with revenue numbers, or they might look at profitability or EBITDA and ask questions about this. But the people who will know what matters in your context are the people in your finance team. So just go speak to them and ask them questions like, can you explain your numbers? Or can you explain our numbers to me? What size business case matters in our context? Is it more important that we create revenue right now, or is it more important that we create profit at the moment? Why? And they will help you understand what you need to know about the numbers. Befriend someone in finance and kind of think of working cross-functionally with someone there, find out what they optimize for, and they can help you. Even with business case modeling, it's like you don't need to know everything yourself, but they can be your support system there.
Interesting. This reminds me of 6 thinking hats for some reason. You have to put on a different hat and think from that perspective. That'll sort of help you out. But yeah, we'll definitely put out links to your course. Yeah.
The challenge I find people have with thinking with the finance hat is that they have a real blind spot there. If you are coming from an engineering background, if you're coming from a design background, even if you have studied business, that doesn't necessarily mean you know how finance works and how a P&L works and how a cash flow statement works and what influences an EBITDA, for example. So if you don't know what you should be knowing and you have a massive blind spot, it's really hard to put the finance thinking hat on and kind of think and speak like this. But that's why I created this course, because I really want people to have the basic knowledge of how all of this works and how the things that we do influence these numbers in your organizations. So you can start having the language and you can start better understanding where people are coming from when they speak about these things. I think the basic fundamentals of how companies make a profit are not changing at all. As I said, 4 big strategies that influence profit in an existing company, right? You make more revenue, you protect revenue, you save costs, you avoid future costs. That would be compliance stuff, for example, right? These basic principles will not change just because there's AI as a tool in the mix right now. AI is actually seen as one of the strategies to save costs in companies, right? If you make a team more efficient, you might be able to get the same amount of work done with less people. We've seen people actually literally let parts of their teams go because they expect that people will become 30 to 40% more efficient using AI tools as part of their regular work. And therefore, so I see a connection where companies feel like AI can be an efficiency play. I also see a big connection with companies like Lovable creating exciting new revenue streams out of a new way to create value for users, right? And so there's lots of ways how AI might influence how we make money as product people and as product organizations. I think Shreshth had some difficulty connecting, so here you are. You're back again.
I'm so sorry. I sort of missed out on that part. Did you complete or?
Yes, I did.
Okay, cool. I think the audience understood. I'll look back at the recording and take a look at that again. Okay, cool. All right. We're coming towards the end here for at least this session. Was there any topic or anything that you wanted to talk about, leave the audience with? Any sort of learning, any insight, anything like that? Then,
yeah, I mean, maybe one thing for me, looking at the numbers is just as much a tool as it is to work with AI as part of your stack. The numbers for me are not the end goal. Obviously, companies need to turn a profit in order to be able to afford even employing people, right? But the more important thing for me is what is the impact we're having out there in the world with our products? What are we creating? What problems are we solving? Why are we picking these problems? How can we build trust into our experiences, especially with AI in the mix, right? And then how can we still do it in a way that is profitable, so that the companies that want to do things right, that want to do good things in the world, that want to build good impact in the world can actually afford to do so. That's who I really want to work with, quite frankly. I love to work with impact founders. I love to work with companies that have a vision for the world and create something that is good for all of us, right? That helps us with our pressing climate change topics, that helps us with stabilizing democracies, that is putting a bit more joy in the world, right? And still, even if you want to build these kind of experiences, even something like a headspace or a meditation app or something, you still need funding, right? It still needs to somehow support itself. So being able to understand the numbers, I think, is important, but the end goal is to create a cool impact in the world, while you can pay people well who are part of creating these experiences.
Interesting. Cool. All right. So what we'll do next is we'll jump into the FigJam board. There's a FigJam board that we've sort of created. I think. We have questions. We have questions coming in from people. Yeah, let's do questions first and then jump into the board. 1 second. I just couldn't make all the questions that we have so far. Receiving them on this tonight. Okay. The first question is from Chris, and he is asking, how does product thinking differ from B2B?
You have a different ideal customer profile, right? When you have a B2C product, you do discovery with individuals. When you have a B2B product, you do discovery and you start thinking about the value you create for another business. In a B2B context, knowing how to calculate a business case becomes even more important, because the value you deliver to another business is usually a financial value piece too. You help them create more revenue, you help them become more efficient, you help them save costs or avoid costs or whatever. A sale in a B2B context oftentimes happens with a business case side by side with it, where you can calculate how this company that invests in your solution is actually becoming more efficient, or is able to increase their revenue or do something like this with it. Whereas if you're in a B2C context, customers still want to see value for the thing that they're buying from you, right? It's actually this money from customers coming in is the only money that stays in your organization, right? All other people that give you money, investors or the bank, they want to take the money back out again at some point. Money from customers is the only money that stays within the organization and can sustainably fund you. Why do people give you money? Because they perceive something you make to be of value to them. And so it's really important to understand what this value constitutes for your customers, and the way you go about it is in the end discovery in B2B as well as in B2C. It's just that you do it slightly differently. With B2C, you speak to lots of end consumers. With B2B, you might be very closely linked up with your sales team that have these conversations with your potential and future customers all the time. So that's how I think about it. It's in the end, it still is the same. I guess you still create value for somebody.
Interesting. We also, so for everybody who's joining in, we also have an option of dialing in. If you want to talk to Simonetta, you can do that by just dialing in, and we'll just have you on the call here as well. But till that time, till somebody says, we have a question from Ayushi that says, I work in a product-based company and I'm responsible for developing content for their apps. How do I help more with more income to the company? How do I help with more income to the company?
Yeah, and this is a very good question, and it's very similar to everyone who works with a platform team in any kind of product organization, right? There are teams where it's very easy to see the direct link between income and revenue and what your team's work is. So let's say you are a subscription business and you are responsible for the purchase flow to the subscription. The immediate connection to revenue is very, very clear. Now with this content in-app thing, it could be that your content is coupled with ads, and then the ad spend in your content is a revenue driver for your ad, so there could be a connection there. If your content that you create for the app does not have a direct line to revenue creation, there must be a reason why the content is there to begin with, right? It supports sales potentially in some way. But you have to figure out what that relationship is to a revenue driver or a revenue retention play or a cost savings or cost avoidance play, right? There should be a connection there. If you cannot find it, that's a dangerous spot to be, because if I'm the CFO in that organization and there's many teams, right? And one team is responsible for this content thing and the team cannot say how they create value, I might call them when I want to save costs, right? And I would hate for any one of you to be in the position where you cannot figure out the argument for how you're creating value, which other team you're supporting that might indirectly create the revenue or the cost savings or whatever, right? But this is the thing to figure out. And if I can give you one piece of advice, even if you find yourself currently in the content team, right, but you can spot in your organization where the teams are that directly drive revenue, go there. That's where the attention and the focus is, right? In board meetings, what will they look at? They will look at the growth story, right? They will look at the sales forecast. They will look at anything that happened that made it more profitable, right? And all the very good and very necessary and very important behind the scenes work in a platform team or in a content creation team that's supporting but not immediately tying into this bigger story, they don't even speak about your work. So it's also from a career perspective interesting to start understanding where are the main cash drivers in my organization and can I be in a team that lines up with theirs, because that's a great place to be considered for promotions, to be seen in a management team meeting because you are the person that drove some meaningful extra revenue there. So that's my take on this.
We have a question from Sneha. It's sort of an open question, but I still say it. What are some practical ways to bridge the communication gap between the creative teams and non-creative teams in organizations?
Honestly, just speak to each other. Communicate. That is like my piece of advice, right? Talk to each other. And it doesn't even matter where you are, right? Like in which part of the organization, but you are trying to all together create something valuable and also make a buck while doing so, right? Figuring out how you can be supportive to the other teams around you. The easiest way, if you don't know already, is to speak to them and ask them, what is it that you're working on? Why are you working on this? How is this supporting our strategy? How does this tie into us creating revenue, right? And if you get no cohesive answer around this, then there will be people that have answers to these questions, right? And the people who do have answers to these questions tend to be the ones that end up with lots of influence and power in your organization. Become friends with them too, because you can learn a lot from them.
Right. And I think at the end of the day, when you're a creative person, you're supposed to talk to more people because you're trying to solve some problem for them as well.
Right.
Communication is key. One more thing is somebody called RK is writing, many organizations do not value design but value finance. I think business as well, that's what I mean. And what metrics can I use from finance point that will help me as a designer? So probably how a matrix is sort of tied to design.
Right. You want to figure out how the thing that you care about translates into their language, right? And their language is literally money. So you want to figure out how, for example, you're designing a better purchase flow experience, right? And your click-through rate in the funnel jumps from, making this up, right, like 50% to 60%, 10% lift in the funnel because of a better design translates into some money, right? Like your average consumer spends XYZ. Now this 10% more is like, I don't know, 500 more customers times their average customer lifetime value equals some sort of money number. You want to be able to speak about that final money number out of the equation and say, the work I've done in uplifting this design has led to 10% increase in the purchase funnel, which translates to 500,000 in extra revenue in 1 year. That's the kind of story you want to start to be able to make, because the finance person will listen to, I made XYZ more revenue, I saved or protected XYZ of our revenue, I saved this much cost, or the thing that I built avoided a big fine for us down in the future because some compliance thing, right? And therefore, I also de-risked our business by XYZ number, whatever that is, right? If it's GDPR, it's like you can do the math by looking at the fines, right? They're like, I believe it's like 2 or 4% of your annual revenue and a minimum number, whichever one is larger or something like this. So it's very easy to kind of connect it to money terms. You just have to do it. And again, someone in the finance team, if you struggle to come up with these phrases, will be able to help you. Or come visit my course, I'll help you there as well. But you have to speak their language, right? That's the trick with any of your stakeholders, not just the finance people, right? If you speak to sales, you have to understand how sales driven, how are they optimizing for their own commissions or whatever, right? If you speak to someone in the legal team, they are interested in risk. And you need to be able to frame the way your design works in their language, how it de-risks something for the business, right? So there's like, it's all, and that's kind of like true for any relationship, honestly, even with your spouse or friends, right? The way to relate to them is to be able to speak in a way that relates to their perspective and outlook on life, right? Everything we do in product, speaking with customers in discovery, speaking with partners in B2B, speaking with sales, speaking with legal, speaking with finance, speaking with the management team, speaking with the board, they're all people, right? So it's all about relationships and looking at the world from different perspectives, different angles, and being able to speak their language to a degree. You don't have to become a finance expert, right? You don't have to know the intricacies of international accounting rules to be able to have a rough sketch of what your design work means in money terms. But that translation work is on you.
I think Akshay is there in the chat. I just saw him. He is also asking one of those questions. I'm not sure it's the same Akshay that we both know. But Akshay is saying, what are the best ways for PMs to demonstrate ROI of a feature to CFOs?
I mean, it has to be based in reasonable assumptions, right? But then you calculate a business case. And if you've never done one before, it's like usually you do it in Excel or in some other software like Excel, right? With rows where you express what is the business value of this idea over time, usually like 2 or 3 years maybe. Some contexts maybe even longer, like hardware you might go to 7 or 10 years. Software like 2 or 3 years generally is a good idea. And then you also map what does it take to build this? What is the cost of doing this? It's usually the cost of the team building this. There might be some servers, there might be LLM tokens if you build something with AI. And so you compare what is this making to what did it cost to make it? Usually you have upfront costs to build it and then the benefit will only come down the road. And you run this calculation and it'll come out with numbers, and these are the numbers you communicate. Again, something that we would cover in the course if you're interested in doing something like this. But this is what they look at, and it could be like a very simple back of a napkin calculation that you literally put on a piece of sticky and you say that this is the expected benefit, this is the expected cost, and here is the delta, here's my return on this investment. But you would want to back up your calculations with reasonable assumptions and explain what these assumptions are. Like the assumption for how much your team costs should be like ballpark right. If you don't know that, that's totally fine. You work with an average, you go back to your buddies in finance, you ask them, is it ballpark right? They will tell you, right? And your assumptions in terms of like the business benefit of extra revenue, you would have to spell out and be like, okay, we are building this cool new feature because like 500 customer requests have already said they want this feature, and we assume that 5% of these 500 will convert at XYZ amount of money. And this is our assumption for how we run this business case. And then you can do a best case and a worst case scenario. And the best case would be maybe 10% conversions, and the worst case would be 0.5% conversions. And you try to see like, does it still make sense? That's how you do it. It's not rocket science. It's like simple calculations. And it would be, by the way, like it is something that you as a team to do together, right? Like as a designer, you don't have to do your own business case separate from the product person and the engineers. It's like for the whole team.
Interesting. I heard a lot of terms. I think I need to Google just now. I'll do that right after this call. We'll just take one more question. We have this from Stephen. He is asking, for an education business specifically, what are the key financial pillars necessary to sustainably grow the business in the long run? Let me just show you. Do you want me to repeat the question?
No, I got the question.
Okay.
But the thing is, there are so many different ways how an education business could make money, right? An education business could be one time you sell a course and you have to resell the course every single time. An education business could be a subscription of some sort, right? An education business could be pay as you use me up. There are so many different ways to run this, and my advice would be to go back to the users of this education thing, find out from them what is the value they perceive to get out of this, and then structure your pricing and your business model according to what makes sense in that context, right? So if the education business is for supporting kids through one grade in school, then you kind of have like rolling cohorts of kids that happen to be at that age in school. You want to find them before and they will age out after. If the education business is about, I don't know, like people wanting to have skill on product management through the lifetime of their career, they might purchase a subscription. Like for 1 month PM, for example, in Portugal, you can buy a subscription. I think it's like 39 or 49 bucks a month, and you have access to all their different courseworks and nano bootcamps and things like that. And you keep it for as long as you find it to be valuable for you, right? An education business could also be, I buy a one-time transformed course from Marty Cagan, and that's like, I don't know, 2,500 a piece for 3 days in London. And then there's another one in Sydney, and there's another one in Berlin, and he makes money this way, right? They're all education businesses. So figure out what makes sense in your context, and then you build the business case from there.
Great. Cool. I think we'll end the fireside chats of a session here. We jump directly into FigJam board. So Piyush, can you drop the link of the FigJam board on the chat? Yes. So I'd like to invite everybody to join us on the board. If we'll just take like 2 minutes for you to come. I'll just pin this one. Yes. Thanks, Piyush. Yes, Mani. We have the links on the FigJam board as well for connecting with people. Yes, I see 5 people have already joined. Waiting for more. Yes. So cool. Let me give you a brief overview about what the board is all about. Here we have our social links. Everybody who was thinking of connecting with us, with whoever is here, please use this to connect. Other than that, we have some 3 boards here. The first 2 are serious. The third one is not so serious. If you're thinking that you don't want to put in any efforts into like writing stuff, learning stuff, you just want to chill here, please go to the third board. You can draw anything you want, you can paste any sticky note, make fun of whatever you want to do. But for the folks who want to actually like write down some points, here are some learnings that whatever you've learned throughout the session, just take a sticky note and just paste it there. And yeah, I mean, this is for all of us to understand what are our takeaways from this session. And on the right hand side on the second board that you see, we have actionable takeaways. Do you think, is there any action that you want to take right away from this session? If there is, then use this board to paste it. And then of course we have our feedback. If you have any feedback, then please leave us some feedback for this session. But yeah, I think we'll get started. I'll just put on a quick timer and some lo-fi music so that we can all chill and yeah, just note down our points or draw. I mean, up to you. Just give like 10 minutes to this. Maybe like 5 minutes for the first board and then 5 more. If somebody is new to FigJam, just press S to get a sticky note and just paste it on the canvas and just type writing. Simona, do you want to take another question? Are you writing something?
I can take a question.
Okay, yeah. So I think Mayan has asked this question. I'll just show it on the stream as well. Any ideas for growing leadership's appetite for problems as for creative team direct attribution stuff? I think it's a very long question.
See the lower part of the question.
Yes. It's there on the chat.
Let me scroll down.
The latest, the last one.
Okay, no, so I get it, right. If you cannot actually attribute the creative input to a business output, it's going to be really hard to get their attention. But if the idea is like a super low input, let's say it's something you can do in 10 minutes, propose an experiment to see what the impact is. If you can measure the impact, you can actually understand the business value of it, right? Especially in a B2C context. An A/B test is basically a hypothesis-based experiment on whether something in the design actually delivers business outcome, right? You want to have the metrics in place so you can check what happens when you A/B test one thing against the other. But then if you have an idea that can be implemented in 5 minutes and the potential upside could be massive, you just test it and see how it goes, right? It's much more difficult to ask for like 6 months of build time for something that's super expensive, but small ideas, like you can usually just experiment with them. I hope that answered your
I think Mayan just said one more thing. Agreed, A/B testing would yield attribution, though. I guess I'm asking, what's the cost of obsession with attribution?
I mean, the cost is basically however much effort you put in to keep testing, right? The cost is like the amount of time you spend on it. And there's usually some initially big gain for little effort, and at some point it becomes like a lot of effort, little gain, like an 80-20 kind of rule-ish. And then if you're like in this final fine print thing, it might not even be worthwhile doing anymore. Depends on where you are in the maturity of your product.
I think a lot of people are drawing as well.
And another
Agreed.
cost of this is that you don't have time to focus on innovation, right? Or strategic work. So if you spend too much time fiddling with the small stuff and you have no more time left to try out a meaningful new thing, then the opportunity cost is that you are not focusing on innovation, you're not building new stuff, you're not entering new markets and things like that. So there's always that as well.
Okay, I think we are done with the exam board. I see a lot of people just scrolling here and there. There are a lot of random drawings as well on the right hand side. If you can see, I really like this caricature. What do you want to call that? Sort of thing that people have done here. Very interesting to see what people do. So, yeah, okay. I think we'll end the chat here. If there's anything you want to write on the exam board, surely it's open for like around 24 hours now. Yeah, 22 hours or something like that. We'll of course share you the recording of the session and the exam board as well. But coming back to Simonetta, thank you so much for taking out the time today. I hope this session was useful for everybody. I hope, Simonetta, you had fun talking about business, products, and design. And do you have any closing thoughts for us?
Well, thank you for including me today. It's been my honor to be your first guest in this new enterprise. And it's been very nice to do this with you, meet your community of curious people. I wish all of you good success in learning the language of money and using it to your advantage in your career. Honestly, feel free to reach out. If you have a simple question, just ask me on LinkedIn. That's free. It's very simple. And I hope this empowers many of you with good tools to get the attention of management and your ideas funded.
Great. And thank you so much for everybody else for joining us today, taking all the time after office hours. I'm not sure what time zone you guys are joining in from, but for people from India, thank you so much for taking all the time at 9:30. It's 9:30 right now. But hope to see you next time. Just one more point before we end the call. There are social links and the post link as well that Simonetta was talking about on the exam board. So please do refer to it. Please do connect with us. If you are planning to make a post about this, tag us on LinkedIn, tag Simonetta, tag me, tag Osiflow if you want to tag other fellow mates. And if you want to connect, I think you can take this time to drop in your LinkedIn as well on the chat. Yeah, I think we'll leave it at that. So good. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining in. We are going to sign off now and we're done with this. All right, folks. Thank you. Take care. Bye bye.